The worst day is also part of the training. Let that sink in. Let it strike deep. Because the world has sold you a lie, the lie that training is only progress when it feels good. The lie that discipline counts only when the sun is shining, when your body is light, when your mind is strong. But that is not truth. The truth is harsher, sharper, but more liberating. The worst day is also part of the training. Think about it. Anyone can move when they feel great. Anyone can push when the energy is high, when the path is smooth, when the applause is loud. That is not where champions are made. That is not where strength is born. Strength is forged in the storm. Discipline is carved in the cold. Courage is grown in the dark. And every stumble, every failure, every tear-stained morning when you wanted to quit but didn't, that was training. The worst day is also part of the training. Most people run from the bad days. They treat them as setbacks, as curses, as proof that maybe they don't belong. They complain, they wait, they hope for tomorrow to be better. But the truth? Tomorrow won't matter if you surrender today. Because today's suffering is the furnace. Today's struggle is the weight. Today's resistance is the lesson. The worst day is also part of the training. Here's a quotable line: bad days don't break you. They build you. Picture this. A soldier in the rain, exhausted, hungry, stumbling in the mud. He curses the sky. He aches. He bleeds. He feels weak. But he marches anyway. He fights anyway. Years later, when the world calls him strong, he will know the truth. It wasn't the easy days that built him. It was the days when everything went wrong. The worst day was part of the training. Or the student who fails the exam. Who studies hard but still comes up short. Shame burns, frustration screams, but they sit down again, pick up the books again, refuse to stop. That failure becomes fuel. That frustration becomes fire. And when they pass, it will not be despite the failure, but because of it. The failure was training. The worst day was training. Most people don't want to hear this. They want a smooth road, a straight path, an easy climb. They want training without pain, growth without failure, strength without struggle. But that doesn't exist. If you remove the worst days, you remove the very days that shape you. You remove the days that test your identity. You remove the days that matter most. That person knows better. That person embraces the worst days. That person whispers to themselves in the storm, this too is training. This too is part of the plan. This too is building me. And because of that, they rise where others collapse. The worst day is also part of the training. Here's another quotable line: easy days teach you nothing. Hard days teach you everything. Think back in your life. The moments that marked you. The chapters that shaped you. Were they easy? Were they smooth? No. They were the days that hurt. The days that stretched you. The days that demanded more than you thought you had. Those were your real teachers. Those were your silent coaches. Those were the weights that built your soul. The worst day is also part of the training. Most people confuse pain with punishment. They think the universe is against them. They think struggle means failure. But pain is not punishment. Pain is preparation. Pain is the classroom. Pain is the lesson you could never read in a book. That person knows this. That person feels the pain, but also sees the gift. That person bleeds, but also learns. That person stumbles, but also grows. That person never forgets. The worst day is also part of the training. Imagine two athletes. One trains only when conditions are perfect. Sunny days, perfect shoes, perfect energy. The other trains when it rains, when it's dark, when it's miserable, when nothing feels right. On the day of battle, who survives? Who thrives? Not the one who only knew perfection, but the one who was shaped by imperfection. The worst days built him. Here's a quotable line: champions are not born in comfort. They are carved in chaos. Listen carefully. You will have days when nothing works. You will have days when your body refuses, when your mind betrays you, when your spirit is crushed. And in those days, the lie will whisper, "This is wasted. This doesn't count. Stop now. Don't listen." Because those days count more than the easy ones. Those days are multiplied in value. Those days are the ones you look back on and say, "That's when I was made." The worst day is also part of the training. And here is the myth you must destroy: that training is linear. That progress is always visible. That every step forward is smooth and obvious. It's not. Some days you move backward. Some days you collapse. Some days you crawl. But even crawling is training. Even falling is training. Even failing is training. Because the lesson is not perfection. The lesson is persistence. The lesson is endurance. The lesson is survival. The lesson is, don't quit when it's hard, because the hard is the whole point. The worst day is also part of the training. Here's another quotable line: your hardest day today is your strongest weapon tomorrow. Think of the blacksmith. Fire. Smoke. Heat. The iron screams. The hammer falls. Strike after strike. It looks like destruction, but it is creation. It looks like breaking, but it is shaping. The same with you. The worst days feel like fire. They feel like hammer blows. But they are shaping you into something unbreakable. Most people run from the fire. That person stands in it. Most people fear the hammer. That person welcomes it. Most people see only breaking. That person sees becoming. The worst day is also part of the training. Your life will not be measured by how you handled the sunshine. Your life will be measured by how you endured the storm. Because anyone can smile in light. But who keeps moving in darkness? Anyone can fight when they feel strong. But who fights when they are weak? Anyone can believe when things are good. But who believes when everything is bad? That is the true measure. That is the true training. The worst day is also part of the training. The worst day is also part of the training. The more you repeat it, the more it becomes armor, the more it becomes fuel. Because every category of growth passes through pain. Every form of strength requires storms. And if you run from the worst days, you run from the very process that was meant to shape you. Discipline versus feelings. Most people live at the mercy of their feelings. They wake up tired and say, "Not today." They feel sore and say, "I'll skip." They feel unmotivated and say, "I'll wait." Their training collapses under the weight of emotion. Their worst days make them quit. That person chooses discipline. That person trains in silence. That person moves even when tired, even when sore, even when broken. That person knows the truth: discipline counts more on the worst days. Because the worst day is also part of the training. Story 1. A marathon runner woke up sick. His body begged for rest. He could have stopped. But he ran slowly, painfully, coughing through the miles. Months later, on race day, when exhaustion hit, he remembered that sick run. He had been there before. He conquered because he had trained on his worst day. Here's a quotable line: discipline proves itself when feelings betray you. Responsibility. Most people blame their worst days on others. It was the weather. It was the system. It was fate. They use pain as permission to stop. Their responsibility dies when the day gets hard. That person owns even the worst days. That person says, "It's still my choice. It's still my fight. It's still my training." And by taking ownership, they transform what others call defeat into growth. Story 2. A young man lost his job. He could have drowned in bitterness, pointing fingers. Instead, he said, "This pain is mine to use." He studied, applied, failed again, applied again. Months of rejection carved resilience into his soul. When he finally built his own business, it was not despite those worst days, it was because of them. Here's a quotable line: excuses weaken you. Ownership trains you. The worst day is also part of the training. Fear versus courage. Most people let fear dominate the worst days. They feel pain and say, "This must mean stop." They feel fear and say, "This must mean I'm not ready." They confuse resistance with rejection. They let fear silence their progress. That person steps anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to move through fear. Courage grows louder in the silence of suffering. Story 3. A student feared public speaking. On his worst day, when anxiety suffocated him, he still stood up and spoke. His voice cracked. His hands shook. But he spoke. That humiliating day became the seed of his growth. Years later, he became a leader, not because of his best days, but because of the courage he showed on his worst. Here's a quotable line: fear screams loudest on your worst day. Courage whispers louder. The worst day is also part of the training. Consistency. Most people think consistency is only for good days. They show up when it's convenient, when the sun shines, when life is easy. But when storms arrive, they vanish. Their progress evaporates in the chaos. That person stays consistent through storms. That person knows showing up on the worst day counts double. Because showing up when it's hard is what multiplies strength. Story 4. Two writers began a novel. One wrote when inspired, skipping on his bad days. Another wrote daily, even on his worst days, even when the words were trash, even when every sentence felt broken. A year later, one had a finished book. The other had excuses. The worst days had built the finisher. Here's a quotable line: consistency is proven not on your best days, but on your worst. The worst day is also part of the training. Long-term vision. Most people want results now. When the worst day comes, they give up because they don't see instant reward. They can't imagine pain as part of progress. That person looks long-term. That person understands the worst days are deposits into the future. Each miserable repetition is stored strength. Each painful step is future resilience. Each worst day is future victory disguised. Story 5. A farmer planted crops in drought. Neighbors mocked him. He looked foolish watering dry soil. But years later, when the rains returned, his land was ready, his roots were deep. He harvested abundance because he had trained in famine. His worst days built his future. Here's a quotable line: short vision quits in pain. Long vision builds with it. The worst day is also part of the training. Serving others. Most people think training is just about them. When the worst day hits, they collapse inward. They forget everyone else. That person uses even the worst day to serve. That person knows strength is not just survival, it is contribution. They rise in pain to lift others. They endure hardships so someone else can endure theirs. Story 6. A teacher in a war zone kept teaching. Bombs fell, fear spread, resources vanished. Every day was a worse day. But she kept the school alive. Decades later, her students became doctors, leaders, builders. Her worst days were their foundation. Here's a quotable line: your worst day might be the reason someone else survives theirs. The worst day is also part of the training. Most people still won't believe it. They will curse their bad days. They will complain, they will stop, they will break. But you can be different. You can embrace the furnace. You can see pain as practice. You can step into your worst day and whisper, "This is also training." And when you do, you will discover a strength most people never touch. Because the worst day is also part of the training. The worst day is also part of the training. Say it again. Let it cut through the noise. Let it echo in your bones. Because this is the truth most people will never accept. They will curse their worst day. They will see it as punishment. They will believe it means stop. But you must see what they cannot. The worst day is not the end. The worst day is the lesson. The worst day is the forge. The worst day is also part of the training. Most people collapse under the weight of a bad day. They call it failure. They call it a sign. They call it proof they weren't good enough. And so they quit. They surrender their destiny to one day of pain. But that person knows better. That person whispers, "This pain is my practice. This storm is my school. This chaos is my classroom." And because of that, they rise again. Here's a quotable line: the day you wanted to quit was the day you were actually being built. Think of the soldier again. Marching in the mud, soaked by rain, starved, aching. Every step a curse. Every step a nightmare. But every step was training. He didn't know it then. He only saw pain. But years later, in battle, he realized, "I have been here before. I have survived worse. That worst day prepared me." The worst day was training. Think of the student again. She failed, embarrassed, humiliated. She thought she was broken. But she refused to stop. She studied harder, deeper, longer. And the next exam, she passed. The failure had been her teacher. The failure had been her training. The worst day was part of her victory. Most people avoid the weight of bad days. They chase only sunshine. They chase only easy victories. They chase only smooth roads. But smooth roads never build warriors. Smooth roads never build resilience. Smooth roads never build leaders. It is the rocky paths, the storms, the nights of doubt, the mornings of pain, that's where you're built. That person doesn't run. That person doesn't hide. That person steps into the fire. That person knows the fire is not destruction. The fire is construction. The hammer blows are not breaking. They are shaping. The scars are not weakness. They are strength. The worst day is also part of the training. Here's another quotable line. Your scars are proof you kept training when others stopped. Listen carefully. One day soon, you will wake up and everything will be against you. You'll be tired. You'll be broke. You'll be betrayed. You'll be empty. And in that moment, the choice will appear. Stop, like most people. Or move, like that person. Quit, like the crowd. Or whisper to yourself, this day is part of the training. And step anyway. Most people won't. Most people can't. But you can. You must. Because every worst day you endure becomes armor for tomorrow. Every worst day you conquer becomes a weapon in your hands. Every worst day you refuse to quit on becomes the foundation of your destiny. The worst day is also part of the training. Story 1. A business owner lost everything. His shop burned. His savings vanished. His friends left. His worst day became his world. He could have ended it. But he whispered, "This is training." He rebuilt, brick by brick. Years later, he had more than he lost. He realized, without that worst day, he would never have become who he was. Story 2. A mother raised her children alone. Bills piled high. Hunger knocked on the door. Every day felt like the worst day. But she kept going. She worked. She sacrificed. She prayed. And her children grew strong, disciplined, grateful. They became leaders. Her worst days became their strength. Here's a quotable line. Your worst day today might be the reason someone else survives tomorrow. Most people will never see this. They will keep crying, "Why me?" They will keep begging for easier days. But you are not most people. You are not ordinary. You were not built for easy. You were built for endurance. You were built for struggle. You were built for fire. The worst day is also part of the training. Say it louder. Say it until it drowns out doubt. Say it until it kills fear. Say it until it becomes the blood in your veins. The worst day is also part of the training. And now the climax. What will you do? Wait for good days? Depend on feelings? Surrender when it hurts? Or will you embrace the furnace? Will you accept the storm? Will you see your pain as practice, your struggle as school, your worst day as training? Most people will choose the easy path. But you must choose the warrior's path. The path of endurance. The path of resilience. The path of discipline. Be that person today. Not tomorrow. Because tomorrow is a lie. Tomorrow is a thief. Tomorrow is a dream that never arrives. But today is your worst day. Today is your training. Today is your weapon. The worst day is also part of the training. Final quotable line, if you survive your worst days, nothing can stop your best ones. So rise. Lift your head. Step again. Carry the weight. Embrace the pain. Stand in the storm. Because this is not the end. This is not failure. This is not destruction. This is training. The worst day is also part of the training. Now be that person today, not tomorrow.